Pinterest is full of pretty pictures, but it's also full of some of the worst design advice I've ever seen. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We're back on my couch today. I'm so excited to be back. I recently traveled to visit some family in between our last video and now, so I'm so excited to be back in my office with you guys again. And today we're going to be talking about design advice and design rules. Now, you guys, there's a lot of design rules that are kind of enforced upon us unintentionally or ingrained into our minds that we don't even realize and could be completely throwing off your space and you don't even know it. My problem with interior design and interior decorating is that people fail to understand that it's such a case-by-case basis. Just because something works for somebody else's space does not mean it's going to work with yours, and I believe that it should be treated as such. Today I'm walking through some of the dumbest design advice that still somehow has a chokehold on everyone. These things might look cute in a little Pinterest pin, but then make your actual space look sad, impractical, and cheap. Let's start with design rule number 1. You have to float all of your furniture off the wall. That's absolutely not true. Listen, you guys, this is a very classic design rule, so just hear me out. In theory, yes, pulling your furniture away from the wall is great. It can help with flow and general intimacy of the room and create a more warm and cozy feel. We love that. But listen, you guys, if you're in a studio apartment that is under 600 square feet, that is just not reasonable, and that should not be happening. Like, floating a bulky sectional 2 feet off the wall just makes your room feel like a furniture obstacle course. And yet Pinterest has people thinking that unless there's airflow behind your couch, you're doing something wrong. What I would say instead is the smarter rule or better idea to go with is to prioritize functionality and walkways in your space. Not a lot of people understand that there's actually a lot of tricks that we like to use when creating people's homes. For instance, you want to have your couch at least 14 to 18 inches away from your coffee table to optimize mobility, but also still be able to reach down to get your coffee. If there's 3 feet of clearance between your seating and your other furniture, float your furniture off the wall. But if not, back that sofa up and focus on some verticality, scale, and cohesion. Now, with this next design rule, I really understand where they're coming from, and I agree somewhat with it, but I think it's a little bit of a misconception that people take a little bit too far. And that is going to be that you must hang your curtains from the ceiling. I want to preface this by saying, yes, this does help create a feeling of higher ceilings, but if you have a 20-foot ceiling in your home and you're hanging the curtains from the ceiling, your house is just going to look way too tall. At that point, it doesn't look intentional. It just kind of looks like your curtains are lost. So if you have regular standard height ceilings, so that would be around 8 feet, 100% go for that and hang them from the ceiling. But otherwise, I would say maybe do it a couple inches above the window frame. And just on this note, because I have to mention it every time I mention curtains, do not get grommet curtains, or I will be personally offended and mad at you. Please don't. They are bad. They are ugly. These will cheapen your space. Don't get them. I don't want to see them ever, ever, and ever. Period. Instead of grommet curtains, get track curtains on a track rail. They look better. Trust me. Just do it. Now, this next one is such a classic design rule that I think so many people follow and like really believe to their core. And it really upsets me and makes me mad because if you don't know, I actually moved into a new home a couple months back and I plan on painting the rooms a bunch of different colors, right? And not all of those colors are things that people would conventionally paint their homes. Like I'm doing dark reds and dark browns and light blues, you know, a whole broad array of different things. And I've received a lot of feedback when it comes to me wanting to paint my bedroom dark red. People get very offended by that. They feel that it will enclose the space, make it feel way too small, and that is just not the case. The rule that you always have to use light colors to make a space feel bigger is just absolutely not true. This really just makes me mad. Yes, light colors can feel airier and more fresh, but only using whites, beiges, and pale grays, that doesn't make the space feel bigger, it just makes the space feel flat. And if you are lucky enough to have a home with separate rooms or smaller closed off spaces, then you should really experiment with color because now you have that opportunity to have isolated designs and you can really get creative with it. Here's what I like to do if you're having a little bit of a hard time with this. I like to use darker tones on the floor, whether that's through flooring or an area rug, to really ground the room. And then once you have that nice grounding base, painting your room a darker color will not be as crazy of a change as you think it will. There's been a trend going on lately called color drenching, where you paint the trim, the ceiling, pretty much everything in the room, you paint the same color. This, I think, is a really great way of using darker colors in order to make the space feel lighter and airier, because when you have that kind of monochromatic moment, it can expand the space quite a bit. Essentially, a white box with beige furniture is not going to cut it, you guys. It doesn't feel big, it feels unfinished and ugly. Another thing to add here is that if you're working with a space that is open concept, where you've got many different rooms within the same area, I would say that using a white paint is, totally fine, because you do have to work with many different things, and it can be a little bit more of a clean slate when it comes to the designing of each of those designated areas. This next one is something that I think the last tenants in my place really believed, and that is going to have to be that accent walls will just fix everything in the room. It'll just make it better, it'll make it instantly nice. There's no other problems. Your room isn't plain or boring, it just needs an accent wall. I think you just really need that DIY geometric accent wall to give the room some oomph. But an accent wall is not going to save you. Pinterest loves to push the idea that you can fix a boring room by painting one wall. But most of the time, accent walls are covering up the real issue, and that is that the space lacks dimension, rhythm, and intentional styling. A random green wall with nothing else anchoring it in the room honestly just looks like you ran out of paint. Instead of just adding an accent wall, go ahead and paint the whole room, or pick up some color in your throw pillows, your artwork, or built-ins. If you're going to do an accent wall, it shouldn't be an afterthought. It should really be a statement. Something I also really love doing is a statement ceiling. I think this can be really beautiful and add a unique element to the room. And I also think that dimensionality is particularly something that a lot of people struggle with, and so I wanted to emphasize that a little bit more. If your space feels a little bit flat, consider the materials that you're working with in your home. If you have all stuff from fast furniture sites, that's not usually the best thing, as they use a lot of synthetic materials. Part of grounding your space is making it feel like a part of nature, and in doing that, it's really important to use raw, natural materials. And I'm not saying you need to put like a bush in your living room, right? I'm saying that you need, maybe some natural woods, some ceramics, a variety of different textures to create a balance. This next rule is actually going to make me rage, because you guys have no idea how much this pisses me off and how common it is in the industry of interior decorating and design. And that is going to be that matching everything automatically means cohesive. The amount of times I've encountered interior decorators who pick out one painting or one couch and say, oh, well, there's green in the painting, so we're just gonna do green pillows, green this, green that, green everything. Like, no, please do not hire those people. They will upcharge you so much money. Instead, you can hire me. I'm always available and would absolutely love to help you. I'm sorry, I have to throw that in there, but also that's just not how you create a layered space. Buying a 5-piece set from Home Goods and calling it a day might feel safe, but it's the fastest way to strip your space of any personality. Now, matching everything does not equal cohesion. What equals cohesion is repetition. Say it with me. Repetition. Think repeating shapes, finishes, or tones. Not copy and pasting the same whatever on every single piece of furniture. Like, that just doesn't work. What I like to do is follow a little formula. It's very loose, so don't take me word for word here, but I think it's sometimes helpful. And that is going to be the 3 lovely pieces rule. I just named it that. So basically what this means is 1 grounding piece, 1 conversation piece, and 1 connector to create a lovely dynamic room. So right, a grounding piece, right? This is going to be a larger piece. You can go more neutral, or you can go in a pop of color, but this is going to be your grounding color and really be the predominant tone in the room. Now, your conversation piece is going to be that really unique item that's really out there and fun and a statement, and everyone's going to walk into your space and go, oh my gosh, whoa. And that could be a black metal sculpture or a really cool table lamp. But then you're going to have 1 connecting piece, and this is going to bridge that gap between maybe this normal couch that I'm on and some really cool lamp that I don't have in this room yet. And so basically it would be taking like small elements from each of those objects and combining it into one. If you're really struggling, you can always kind of jump back to that rule, and sometimes it'll help you analyze your space space, because you might be missing a connector, you might be missing a grounding piece, or you might be missing a conversation starter. You know, one of those could be missing, but usually that formula tends to work. Basically, Pinterest is helpful until it isn't. The trick is to treat Pinterest like inspiration and not instruction. Use your space, your proportions, your own style, not whatever happens to be viral that week. Let me know in the comments if you've struggled with one of these, and I'm happy to answer any questions from you guys. I really love the community here on YouTube, and if this video even helped you just a little bit, it would be so lovely if you could like and subscribe. It really does help me out quite a bit. And I'm here every Sunday. I post new videos every Sunday, 6 a.m. PST. As usual, if you're struggling with your own space, you can always hire me as your interior decorator. There's a ton of information about it on my website if you're interested. And yeah, I'm here no matter how big or small your project is. I would absolutely love to help you out. I love my clients so much. We always have a great time. So don't be shy. You can find me on all social media at cooper.osinski, and I will see you guys next week.